you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by. For the new subscribers, you're very much welcome. For the returning subscribers, it's always a pleasure having you around. Thank you so much for sharing our videos, for liking our videos, for even communicating with us. So today, we're getting a little bit mythical. We're going back to ancient times. We are telling a story that has long been forgotten and barely written in books. So, tighten up your seatbelts and let's get right in. Since the dawn of time, long before ink met paper, stories have been created and told. Not just for entertainment, but to educate, to inspire, to warn, and to preserve history. While the world speaks of Zeus, ruler of the skies, Poseidon, master of the seas, Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, Apollo, the god of light and prophecy, and Athena, the warrior of wisdom. At this point, we can't forget about the monsters that haunted these tales. Like Medusa, whose gaze turned men into stone. The Hydra, with its many heads that never stayed down. The Siren, whose voice led sailors to their doom. The Nemean lion, feared for its invincible hide. And the Griffin, half lion, half eagle, fierce guardian of treasure. But hey, far from the marble temples of Greece, far from Olympus and the thrones of ancient gods, far from the scrolls that carry the names of Zeus and Apollo, there lies another world of might, hidden in the hills, whispered in the wind, etched in memory, and barely written in books. Because mites don't belong to Greeks alone. They live in our countries, in our country, and in our counties. And today, right here in our motherland, Kenya, deep in the enchanted hills of Taita Taveta County, we bring you one such tale. A story of power, mystery, a story of something ancient. A serpent with not one, but 7 heads. It said to see what the other missed. Its name. Today, our journey begins at the very rib of Wundanyi town, at the elegant Taita Luxury Hotel, gracefully perched with pride and purpose. This hotel is more than just a resting place. It's where culture meets class. As you step in, you are welcomed by an interior so beautifully decorated. It's a place that whispers, "You belong here." When you take the stairs to the rooms, each step echoing quiet elegance, the doors open to spacious, sparkling clean rooms and a view to die for. Taita Luxury offers a front row seat to majestic rock formations, rolling green hills, and skies that seem to never end. Taita Luxury Hotel isn't just a place to relax, it's where the soul ignites the spirit of exploration. From Taita Luxury Hotel, we take the main road towards our destination. The breeze is soft, the views simply breathtaking. The roads wind gently through the heart of the hills until we arrive at a place called Mbengonyi, where roads branch off like stories, each leading to a hidden corner of the land. We all know all work with no play makes Jack a dull boy. That's why today we are joined by the most disciplined, most joyful young adventurers. The grade 9 students from Ngulu Comprehensive School. These young adventurers were full of energy, ready to take on a new challenge. This was no ordinary day. The excitement buzzed in the air, and it wasn't just the students who felt it. Their teachers were equally eager, their spirits high, as they prepared to climb the mountain alongside their students. Right before we began the hike, their teacher, Madam Hafswa, gave them an important reminder. You will write a composition about this very day, she said with a smile. Whether or not they wrote that composition, I am confident they walked away with memories and lessons that will stay with them for a long time. As we started our climb, curiosity filled the air. The students were eager to know so much about me. It made the journey all the more interesting and fun, with music playing in the background and laughter echoing through the hills. This was more than just a hike. It was an adventure. It was entertainment. It was learning outside the classroom. On our way up, there was so much to discover. The students were amazed by the impressive architecture we passed. Then came the trees, huge, ancient giants we don't see every day. Their size and strength amazed everyone. It felt like we had stepped into a forgotten world. And then, as if the day wasn't already magical enough, we met one of the greatest storytellers of our time, Mr. Hutchinson Mwadime. With wisdom in his eyes and a voice full of history, he shared tales from his own youth and stories passed down from long ago. And finally, he reached the heart of his storytelling, the story that we had all been waiting for, the tale of the one and only Mwamlalu. Inasmuch as we were attentively listening to the story, he told it in a language only the Taita people can understand. And that is why today, I choose to break the borders of Taita Taveta and retell that powerful story in a way that everyone can understand. And so, let me take you back to the very beginning, even before Mwamlalu was born. In the sacred hills of Mwachora, where the wind whispers ancient songs through the trees, there lived a beautiful and well-mannered girl. Her name, Gulu. She was raised by an old woman whose voice could summon thunder and rain. Not a witch, but a woman of balance, of rhythm, and of deep connection to the very earth. Ngulu was not trained in darkness. She was trained in harmony and balance. In her prime, Ngulu was beloved by all, respected for her discipline, admired for her radiant spirit. They say she could make even the saddest hearts burst into laughter in a split second. Ngulu was a master of traditional dance. She danced when helping her grandmother to call the rain, and danced again to thank the skies when the rain had fallen. But time waits for no one. Her grandmother, the greatest rainmaker, passed away, leaving behind her wooden staff, and with it, all her power. Now Ngulu could speak to animals, to the trees, to the very heartbeat of the forest. And when she spoke, the forest listened. They say she didn't choose the forest chose her. Then came the time for tradition to take its course. A man was chosen for her. His name, Ndakandaka, and Ngulu fell so deep in love that they married. And for years, Gulu and Ndakandaka lived in peace, with their livestock, crops, and their laughter echoing in the valley. But the seasons passed, and no child came. People began to whisper. They laughed, they pointed fingers, they called them cursed, and slowly the couple was pushed aside, left out of ceremonies, left out of joy. And wavy, Gulu went where she always found peace, deep into the forest. Even in her pain, the land still needed rain. So she danced, She danced to awaken the skies, to call upon her ancestors, to ask the gods for their mercy. But in the middle of her sacred play, she stopped. And when she did, the rhythm broke, the silence fell, and with tears in her eyes, she cried out, "Why? Why do you give me the power to feed the land, but deny me the joy to feed a child? Why? Why do the trees listen, the animals understand, but my womb still remains empty? Why?" And as Ngulu poured her sorrows out to the winds and the trees, a spirit appeared before her. Some say it was a ghost of her grandmother. Others say it was an ancient guardian of the forest itself. The spirit did not speak in fear or fury. It came in warmth, cloaked in wind, and glowing with wisdom. It comforted her, and then it gave her a message. Go beyond the mountains, past the plains, to a land called Kagera in Tanga, to the people of Bahaya. There, your path shall unfold. And just as mysterious as it came, the spirit vanished. Then the clouds broke, and the rain poured like a blessing from the gods. Ngulu stepped out of the forest with a quiet smile. She returned home and found Kandaka waiting, the same man she had loved with all her heart since the very beginning. She sat and told him everything. He listened. He believed. "When you go, my love, we go," Ndakandaka said, and without hesitation, they packed their things and began the journey together. They went, and finally they arrived in Kagera. They were greeted by an old man, a seer, a sorcerer, a wizard, who seemed to have been waiting for them. He welcomed them into his humble hut, smoke swirling from the fire like it carried secrets. He gave them herbs, charms, potions, and prayers, and a warning wrapped in mystery. "When you return home," he said, "the woman must not drink from any river where a frog sings or stares." They thanked the old man and made their way back to their homeland. Days passed. Gulu wandered from river to river, searching for silence. One river, frogs. 2 rivers, frogs. 7 rivers later, she found stillness. Not a croak, not a ripple. She knelt down, fetched the water, and drank it. That night, the world felt different. Even the sky seemed to breathe easy. The forest was still, but alert, as if listening for something sacred. Her belly began to grow, and just as the old man instructed, Ngulu stayed indoors, sheltered by the spirit's command. Ndakandaka, joyfully beyond words, tended to everything. He cooked, he cleaned, he cared. With laughter in his heart and purpose in his hands, he stood by her. Then came the night of the birth. The skies danced with the stars. Birds sang in the dark, and animals called out into the night like they knew. They knew because by midnight, the forest was alive with celebration. Inside that small home, a miracle was born, and for the first time in many seasons, Ndakandaka and Ngulu were whole. They named the child Mwamlalu. From the moment he was born, it was clear this was no ordinary child. On his shoulders were hard raised bumps, 3 on the left, 3 on the right, each set perfectly aligned with the spine, as if something ancient was waiting to awaken beneath his skin. Still, Ngulu and Ndakandaka were overwhelmed with joy. They had become a family. But with that joy came responsibility, deeper than tradition. They had to follow instructions, for Mwamlalu could not sleep in a bed like other children. A large clay pot was crafted, smooth, wide, and deep. That pot became his cradle. Just as the wizard had foretold, Mwamlalu grew faster than anyone had imagined. His limbs stretched with power, his body thickened with strength, and his appetite was fierce. Ngulu fed him thick sorghum porridge, seasoned with crushed herbs from the forest, just as instructed. Day by day, the boy grew taller, stronger, wiser, but there was one secret they kept hidden from the world. Mwamlalu was no ordinary child, for by day he was a boy, but by night he shifted into a snake. Coiled in silence, his body would stretch long and glisten like moonlight on river water. He would sleep curled inside the great pot, his tongue flicking gently in rhythm with the night's breeze. Mwamlalu was a shapeshifter, a being between worlds, a child of prophecy for a time. That is why he was never allowed to step beyond the threshold, not until the time was right. Years passed, and then one morning, Gulu opened the door and handed him a calabash. It was time. Go fetch water, she said, and feed the cattle. Watch over them like your own brothers. And Mwamlalu did as he was instructed. He moved with ease, carrying pots as if they were feathers, guiding cattle with a whisper, his every step echoing quiet power. The villagers began to notice. They began to whisper again, but this time it wasn't with mockery, it was with wonder. Mwamlalu's cattle always returned home full round bellies, coats shining, calm as the wind before rain. And like other boys' hearts, his livestock never strayed, never fought, never felt ill. People too began to whisper about his gifts, how those with strange sickness, festering wounds, or stubborn fevers would visit quietly at night. Mwamlalu would gather herbs from the forest, and after murmuring in a tongue older than memory, he would make a remedy. Some claim it was just the plants. Others swore he mixed the herbs with his own silver-touched saliva, or drops of his serpent blood. Whatever the truth, people healed faster than they should have. Whispers began to stir among the villagers. Why do his animals thrive? What does he do out there in the field? What magic lives under that boy's skin? They didn't know the truth, for when Mwamlalu reached the pastures, he would cast his eyes to the horizon, feel the pulse of the land, and then quietly he would shift. His human form melted away, and from his spine grew the length of a great snake. He stretched far and wide, encircling his cattle like a living fence. The cattle fed peacefully within his coil, protected by the silent rhythm of his breathing. And when the sun leaned towards the earth, Mwamlalu would return to himself, lead the herd home, and say nothing. The blessings did not stop there. At night, when the moon was high and the trees hushed in silver light, Ndaka would begin to brew traditional alcohol. His hands steady, his heart joyful. He was a master of his craft. And on those nights, Mwamlalu would bring out his glowing egg, a mysterious radiant orb he had carried since birth. He would place it gently in his mother's hands, and Ngulu, cradling the warm light, would sit beside the brewing fire until morning. The glow of the egg kept the flame strong, the air sweet, and the spirits pleased. Their livestock multiplied, their harvest overflowed. Ndakandaka's alcohol was richer than ever. Bold, smooth, and potent, they gave generously. They shared with neighbors, offered drinks during ceremonies, blessed weddings and burials alike. But the villagers did not see the love behind the offering. They saw only abundance, and abundance to the bitter-hearted looks like arrogance. What once was gratitude turned to gossip. What once was admiration twisted into envy. Their smiles became thin, their greetings brief. Their eyes lingered too long on Mwamlalu, too long on the egg, too long on the joy they could not understand. But envy when left to fester becomes hunger, and hunger without honor becomes violence. The villagers, once kin, once neighbors, made plans beneath the covers of night. They whispered of taking what was not theirs, the land, the kettle, the glowing egg. But first, they will take lives. They waited until Mwamlalu was gone to the fields. Waited until his serpent body curled around his head. Then they came with pangas, with clubs, with stones gripped in trembling hands and poisoned hearts. They descended on the home like hyenas at dusk. Ngulu and Ndakandaka stood firm, but they were only two against many. The mob beat them, struck them, broke them. Ndakandaka fell fast, his blood spilling across the earth he had once blessed. Gulu, though shattered and gasping, did not die. With her final strength, she called the skies, summoning the birds, her allies of old. And the birds flew fast as memory, to the open field where Mwamlalu stood watch. They circled above him, crying out in warning, relaying the message of blood, fire, and betrayal. He had them, he knew, and he ran. He ran faster than any beast, but not fast enough. When he reached his homestead, his father's body lay still, and his mother's barely breathing. The grief rose like thunder in his chest, but deeper still was the fury. And in that moment, the bumps on his shoulders began to shift, to writhe, to grow. From his spine burst forth 6 more serpent heads, each one crowned with venom and fire. His skin turned to scale, his breath to wind. He grew taller than the huts, longer than the village paths. Mwamlalu became what he has always been becoming, a full 7-headed serpent. The earth trembled beneath him. The trees bent low. His roar split the sky. But even in his fury, Mwamlalu did not lose his heart. As his 7 heads hissed and wailed into the heaven, one still wept. He turned to his mother, broken but breathing, and gathered herbs from the hidden corners of the land, the ones only serpent eyes could see. With his fangs, he crushed them, mixed them with ancient spit, the silver of his blood, and laid them gently on her mother's wounds. Then, with the strength of his tail, he lifted his father's lifeless body. He carried him to the hill of old grass and sacred herbs, a place known to no man but whispered of by spirits. There, he wrapped his tail around him, cried out in a tongue that hadn't been spoken of in 1,000 years, circled the body 7 times, then leapt high, and landed with thunder. The ground split slightly, and with the final roar, he called back the breath into his father's chest. Ndakandaka gasped again. Mwamlalu had crossed the veil. He had walked the forbidden path. He had brought a soul back to life. Necromancy, they would call it. But to him, it was only love. From that day forward, the family was whole again. Inasmuch as the family was whole again, Mwamlalu knew peace was fragile. He never truly slept. And even if he did, his 7 heads took turns watching and always vigilant. At night, his massive body would wrap around the homestead, a living fortress, a sacred guardian. His egg, now radiant, was held high each evening. Its light shimmered like a halo, dancing in the sky like a second moon. Villagers would look up and swear, "That boy holds the sun in his hands." And some still think he did. But time is not always a healer. For some hearts rot instead of mend. Though the land flourished, though the cattle multiplied, though rain fell when needed, jealousy only grew. The villagers, not satisfied with their previous betrayal, let their hatred grow fangs again. And this time they would not fail. They conspired in whispers and smoke, strike the heads of the parents, then wait for the serpent to become a man again. And when he does, we kill him too, they whispered. The villagers' hearts had hardened. They no longer fear the serpent. He's lived among us, they said. He has the heart of a man. He won't harm us. He weeps. He heals. He even forgives. So they made their final plan. No fear, no mercy. They would finish it. One quiet day, as the sun climbed the sky, Mwamlalu led his cattle far from home. The grass was thick and sweet near the river. So he walked, this time as a man, peaceful and vulnerable. The villagers knew, and they struck. They stormed the homestead while the serpent was away. Once again, they came with pangas, with fire, with blind hatred. And this time they did not hesitate. Ndakandaka the brewer, the resurrected, was not spared. They took his head, left it on the ground like a warning. Ngulu once again fought for her life. But her strength had faded with age and pain. No longer could she summon birds. No longer could she scream loud enough for the wind to hear. But she whispered to her staff, that sacred branch carved from spirit wood, and the message flew. Mwamlalu, miles away, froze mid-step. The ground trembled beneath him. His eyes turned to silver. His veins flared, and in a blink, he shifted back into his true form. A full 7-headed serpent, each head now glowing with wrath. He moved faster than thunder, over mountains, through rivers, across valleys, and when he arrived, he saw it all. His mother crumpled, but still breathing. His father, again lifeless, but this time headless. He went close to them. His head swept, hissed, shrieked. He coiled close to his mother. She looked at him with fading eyes. "My son," she whispered, "do not let them forget. Make them remember my name." And so he rose, not just as a son, but as wrath itself. He hunted them, those who swung the blades, those who held the torches, those who watched and said nothing. One by one he swallowed them, crushed them, threw them off cliffs, buried them in pits they had dug for others. Not one was spared. That day the skies were not blue, the sun did not shine, but the air trembled. Mwamlalu, son of Ngulu and Ndakandaka, became more than legend. He became a curse, a guardian, a warning carved into the bones of the earth. Mwamlalu was heartbroken, and after his revenge was complete, he returned home in silence. He buried his father in a place only he knew, then carried his mother, who was barely clinging to life. Some say she became one with him, others say she vanished into thin air, and others whispered that Mwamlalu, with his mother in his arms, leapt over the cliffs of Mwachora, down the steep slopes to a calm, fertile land below. There, he made his home. Waters from all directions gathered into the land and formed a great basin. A sacred place was born, and from that moment it was called Ngulu. To this day, no matter how dry the place becomes, Ngulu never dries unless she chooses to. They say the aroma of delicious food still floats the air from time to time. That fire lights up without a match. And yes, some say the seven-headed Mwamlalu still lives beneath the waters besides his mother. Remember her words? My son, make sure they remember my name. And so they did. To this day, the place is still called Ngulu. From the towering heights of Mwachora Hill, the wind still carries Mwamlalu's legacy. Let this be a reminder that silence is not always weakness. Sometimes, the quiet ones hold storms within, because true strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it simply acts. And just like that, we've come to the end of our journey. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and never stop exploring. Bye-bye!